Do African women have rights? Do they have the power to decide how many children they would like to bring to the world? Do they have control over their own bodies? These are questions left by a watcher who saw the last episode we did on parents selling their children in Nigeria. Now, the answer may be simple, but I think it's a lot more complex, and I would like to explore these questions on a deeper sense. So grab something to drink and let's dive into it. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Moitinya and I'm a visual storyteller who happens to be visually impaired, and I love to cover African stories. But if you've been following me for quite a while, you know I break all the rules. So I tell stories that I'm very connected to, right? So today's episode is indeed very powerful. But before I share it with you, because again, it came from a viewer, they inspire this episode, I want to tell you a quick story. So years ago, I met this guy and we were arguing about women's rights in Africa. It was a healthy argument. And he was saying that I was blowing steam, that I was making things look awful, that the lives of women in Africa is not bad, right? I'm just making all these excuses. I mean, look at his mother. His mother lived a blah, 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 right? Then I said to him, here's a question for you, to this man that I was having this discussion with, right? I said, if you were given the opportunity to come back to this world again as a Nigerian, given the circumstances we have today, but the only decision you have is to choose your gender. So it's either you're going to come in as a man or you're coming in as a woman. You decide which one. That's my question to you, right? This man he looked me in the eyes and he said, if I were given the opportunity to come back to this life as a Nigerian, I'll pick a man. I'll decide to come back as a man. So as a woman, a Nigerian woman listening to that, it answered all my questions. And this man is going to help us answer the questions that were left on our under the last video we did on the selling of children in Nigeria. So 2 viewers left comments underneath the last video, and I'm going to be reading the first comment and then we'll talk about that, and then I'll read the second comment and then we'll talk about that. So here's the first comment on your screen. She said, I think it's a she said, thank you for sharing. The reality of children used as domestic servants in Nigeria is something that is openly known but rarely interrogated. Term, domestic servants, right? And then she went on to say, whether it's being sent to a distant family member and made a house help, that's another term she introduced me to. I've known it, but it kind of points things out to the direction that I would like to go with this video. And then she said also, or in this case, directly sold as collateral by families who can't afford to feed all their children. Then she also said, hope you continue to explore the story as it needs to be told. So Miss Tolu, I think she's a woman. Thank you for your comment. I went online and I began to research. The word domestic servant, house help has been something I myself I've been hearing this for quite a while. When I lived in Nigeria, we had cousins who came and stayed with us, and they weren't servants. They assisted with the housework and they went to school. My parents made sure they went to school. So sometimes when a family can't afford to take care of their kids, or let's say a father's not in the home or the breadwinner, then those kids would go to families where they are given the opportunity to live a little bit better compared to their own circumstances. I think the part of her comment that was a bit disturbing for me is children being used as collateral. I think that's more of a recent practice. The reason why I say this to you is this. In Nigeria, right, when parents are naming their children, they either would give them names that speaks to the destiny of that child, or they would give them names that speaks to the circumstances of the parents, right? So I have a cousin whose name is Omosigo. Omosigo in the Edo language or in Benin, and Benin people, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It means a child is more valuable than money. These are the names oh, this is an example of a name given to us by our ancestors. This is the type of name that fell out of their lips. So if this is a name that is given to us by our ancestors, right, a name that has been passed down from generation to generation, then why then would a parent that valued their child then turn around and sell their child? So I think with that piece of information I know about the history of name in Nigeria, particularly in Edo State where the selling of children is practiced, goes to show that it is more of a recent practice. What I mean by that is the selling of children or children being used as collateral, as she used in her comment, is indeed a recent thing. Now, I don't know much about this, but I would like to explore it. And if you want me to have the opportunity to do that, be sure to share your support. And I'll put all of that information on this video as well. But Ms. Tolu, I think she's a Mrs. Or Tolu, thank you for your comments. So here's the second question or the second statement that was left on the last video. Now I'm going to summarize this one because it is quite a lengthy comment. And she began with a question: do women have rights as to how many children they want to have? Do they have power over, or do they have a say over their own bodies? And she also made us understand this, right? That patriarchy is the problem. Right? The fact that girls are sold and boys are not goes to show that boys are more important than girls. Then she also said that in her household, it was very different. Mom and dad, or rather father, treated everybody equally, and father was also the breadwinner as well. Her brothers, she has 4 brothers, they treat their wives very well, and she has sons, and she wants to make sure that her sons follow the same rule, treat women with respect, right? Now, this is a loaded comment. It's a loaded comment with questions, and we're going to be taking this one bite at a time. So the question is this. The first one she asked is, do women have rights in Africa? I don't know why I'm like giving you faces. I'm doing like all these kinds of gesture. The answer is there are laws that supposedly protect women in Africa in general. Like in this case, we're looking at Nigeria. There are laws there to protect women, but these laws are not reinforced. As a result, women face a series of domestic violence, and also they are often discriminated against. So while there are laws on paper though, in actuality, it is not the case. So here's my belief, right? When it comes to the way women are treated in Africa, I think if I were to blame factors, it would be, in my opinion, religion would be one of them. Traditional practices and customs are what obstruct justice in Africa, right, in general. So I remember reading an article one year where it says about 36% of Nigerians believe they should be slapped when their husband disagrees with them. I'm going to see if I can find that article. It's been a while. I remember reading that and it blew my mind away because, it's more of a cultural thing. This is the mindset of the average person in Nigeria. I am not speaking about the educated woman. I am not speaking about the financially stable type of woman. I'm speaking about the everyday woman, such as the ones that would indeed fall in situation of selling their children, right? The ones who never had the opportunity to advance themselves. The one who's probably witnessed abuse all their lives, right? The one who don't have the financial means to take care of themselves or their family. So a woman that is caught in that kind of environment won't believe that they have the rights, or because the society itself doesn't promote that. It's more, according to Ms. Davis, the woman who left the message, it's more of a patriarchal system where men decide and the women follow. Do African women have says over their bodies? Do they have rights as to what to do with their own bodies? Do they decide issues pertaining to their bodies? All these questions these questions are what could cause World War III in Africa. I'm not lying to you. But before I answer them though, I want us to look at Kenya, for example. When we talk about women's rights, when we talk about women's bodies, when we talk about a woman's identity, when we talk about a woman's position in marriages, when we talk about a woman's desire to want to have children or not want to have children, when we talk about a woman in finance, when we talk about a woman and her place in her husband's house. These are massive conversations, right? And I can't help but think of Kenya, where women are being unalived by their partners. A man decides, or a woman decides that she no longer wants to be married, or whichever the case may be. And the next thing you know, she's burnt alive, she's suddenly passes away, and it blows up in the news. And this has been such a big deal with Kenyan women, and we are seeing now that they are not backing down. You know, now Congress, or rather their political structure, is starting to look into creating resources for women or families being unalived by an ex-boyfriend or ex-husband or even a current husband. So these type of questions are loaded, you know, and because of the way Africa is structured, it feels as though there is no solution to it. But that's not true. The more we speak about it, the more we find solution to the problem. And we can see that Kenya is an example of that. So when it comes to a woman's bodies in Africa, I mean, I've done talk on circumcision. That's one of my most watched videos. That goes to show that, hell no, women don't have rights. I want to share with you a story that I saw when I was putting together this episode that broke me apart. When it comes to tragic stories about girls and boys too, I'm disturbed forever, you know, at least for the day. So there's a senator whom I'm going to call Senator Ahmed. In 2013, Senator Ahmed was accused of marrying a 13-year-old girl. Now, Senator Ahmed should be probably maybe in his 60s, in his 40s, in his 50s, it doesn't matter. He's old enough to be this young girl's dad, right? Then when so he married the girl in 2009. In 2013, he was accused. Around 2022 or so, he was trying to run for president. So somebody then brought up that accusation again. And then he went on to say, there's no law in Nigeria that determines when a girl gets married. So, because there's no law in Nigeria, then a man that is as old as 80, and I'm over-exaggerating, but you know it's true, can get married to a girl as young as 10, 13. It is sickening. It is sickening. And then he had the audacity to actually support a constitutional law in Nigeria where a young girl is treated as married women, right? So a young married girl is treated as a married, how do I even say it? A young married girl is treated as an adult. That doesn't even make any sense to me. But it's a law. It's something that happens in Nigeria. And we're not speaking about wealthy Nigeria. Let me tell you something. There's two types of Africa. There is the wealthy Africa, which we don't hear much about. And it's the Africa that I'm aspiring to become because I don't even know much about that Africa. And there is the poor Africa. And that is the one I am mostly connected to because, again, that is part of my reality, right? The goal, though, is to bridge that gap between the wealthy and the poor. So a woman has more rights. A woman has power. A woman has recognition when she is married, when she is wealthy, when she is educated, when she comes from a good and supportive family that is progressive. That's how it works in Nigeria. We don't hear much about those women because they are few, but we hear so much about the young ones and the poor ones and the underdogs, as they call them here in the States, right? So no, women don't have rights. Women don't decide how many children they want to marry. Women don't decide, they don't have voices yet, not yet. But we're all working towards that. And that's why I do what I do. That's why I tell the stories that I tell. I choose to tell these stories for that particular purpose, right? So if you love what you've watched today, you enjoy my commentary, you want me to go back to Nigeria and dive deeper into the selling of young girls in Nigeria, please be sure to support me on that venture. I'll list all that information below. I do want to thank you all for watching, and we'll absolutely see you again on the next episode. Stay tuned, stay safe.